Golf's no different from hockey. Requires talent, self-discipline.
Golf requires goofy pants and a fat ass. You should talk to my neighbor, the accountant, probably a great golfer, huge ass.
How do you measure yourself with other golfers? By height.
It's a very, very special honor.
I'm Paula Creamer, and you're listening.
Well, we're waiting.
Hi, this is Martin Cove, a.k.a. John Kreese from Cobra Kai, and you're listening to
Quiet, Please.
Let the word go out from here across the land. Let Daddy Noonan approve.
Hi, boys. Nice day for golf, isn't it? Quiet, please. Oh, you got secrets, eh?
Hey, this is Shooter McGavin. You're listening to the...
Hey, you guys. Hey, we're trying to have a podcast over here.
Indeed we are. Welcome to another episode of Quiet Please Golf Podcast. Boston Bobby with a special guest today. I am Alan Depew. We are connecting, talking about the latest happenings in the golf industry, as well as out on the tours. I am joined, as always, by the ever-present one, Andy Hydorn, checking in from West Palm Beach. Hello, West Palm Beach, Andy.
Checking in and happy to be here.
Yes, so we'll talk about why you're there once again, hating on you right now. Mm-hmm. I've got Boston Bob Baldessari hailing from the Bourbon Country. Bobby, you got a special guest in honor of the Arnold Palmer this week?
Special guest. This is Winnie, and she was named for Winnie Palmer. True story.
There you go.
Puppy. So we think about Arnie all the time and Winnie Palmer. And Winnie, say hi. You don't want to run. That's her cameo.
That's all right. Good enough. Hey, and as always, Christian Azamis, the prettiest podcaster in golf.
Well, I'm not the prettiest podcaster tonight. I think Winnie won that award.
Oh, without question. And I'm checking in from Studio Wyndham. I'm up in Connecticut on assignment, so we are room 365.
They're not make state.
Give me the secret. Give me the secret knocker. I'm not opening.
I've got the Darius Rucker playing in the background. They're playing that down in Long Cove. So, hey, so boys, what's going on?
Same old day. Nothing new.
Should we discuss a little bit of the pitch and putt PGA National tournament that they just had this week?
Well, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the consensus is once they went to overseeding there at PGA National, it took a lot of the teeth out of that golf course. And while it looks good on TV, it definitely doesn't play the same as it always has. And, there are times where the winner of that event would be, single digits under par, 6, 7 under. And now they're getting up in the high teens, all showing just how ultimately important it is what kind of surface you're playing off of. And while it looks great on TV, it definitely makes it a lot easier for those guys to play.
I've played there a lot, and it is such a hard golf course. Even if they softened it, it is still, I can't believe the scores. And I saw something where Jake Knapp, after shooting 59, he would have won, I don't know, like 20 of the cognizant events over the years. Like, that's how good that round was compared to, the typical 72-hole score.
Yeah.
I think no matter who shoots the score that they did, I think that was an incredible round of golf on any golf course. You can do that. It's not not as easy as it perceives to be, but if you can fire a 59 and break 60 on any track in the U.S., you are a pretty good stick. I know he couldn't get it done, unfortunately, but what a hell of a week for him, though, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that goes without saying. A 59 is 59, but it doesn't really have a relation to the fact that the golf course in general got so much easier once they started overseeding it. I think the average score used to always be over par.
Yeah.
And now it was like 2.5 strokes under par.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. And I think golf's in such a good spot right now too, because you're seeing a lot more of these younger names come up that people don't necessarily know. Like the average golfer might know who won, but like at the end of the day, a lot like the we've talked about it before a handful of times. Golf is in a tremendous spot, in my opinion, because you have a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of these newcomers that are coming up, showing their talent, and it's going to be a different winner potentially every single week moving forward until Scotty tees it up and is healthy. But my point is, though, is that it was just a great tournament to watch, and this was like the first one that I've watched all season, like start to finish, basically, because of, one, the track that it was on, and now we're starting to get into a good stretch of really solid golf tournaments with some of the top players in the world coming up.
I think was it back to Andy, back to your point while I was handling some technical difficulties in the background there. I believe it was Patrick Cantley, wasn't he, Bobby, or one of you two guys that was complaining about it being such a pitch and putt golf course?
Maybe.
I know, shockingly, Cantley complained about something, but I mean,
hard to believe.
Yeah. Stunning.
Hey, he's pretty good on TGL though. I'll say that. Like, he is who he is, but he's not like as boring on TGL as he is on Saturday and Sunday out on tour.
I don't want to brag, but when I was playing my best, I did shoot in the 50s one time. Andy knows the golf course, Rockland Golf Course down on the Cape.
Oh yeah.
Well, don't foreshadow our next part of our conversation here, BB.
Right, Bobby?
Charlie Lanzetta's place when he owned it. It was like par 54, but hey, you got to shoot. You got to hit and putt it.
You got to be in the 50s.
Yeah.
I want to make one point, like to Christian's comment, which I agree with. As far as it being exciting that you have the opportunity for new guys to come up and win that aren't necessarily the Scotties and the Rorys of the world. But I gotta say that's the biggest bitch that people have about the PGA Tour is they look at the leaderboard from a Cognizant Classic or one of the other non kind of limited field elevated events, and they complain that they don't know the people on the leaderboard. It's a catch-22, right? I mean, at some point you got to know who these people are. At some point they have to come out of nowhere. But I agree with Christian. I think that's some exciting stuff to watch. I think it's a lame complaint that people kind of throw out there, that they just don't think that the tournament's compelling because they don't have the leaderboard that everyone knows.
Well, a perfect segue. Player not known, should be number one amateur in the world, but how about Luke Clanton coming out of nowhere, charging up the leaderboard? When I glanced at the TV, I think he was second or third he got up to. And then wayward tee shot and really an unforced error from about 20 yards off the green started that downward spiral. By the way, we have a comment here for me from a friend of the show, Michael Booker, checking in. He's also
all right, Mike Booker. We're both in West Palm.
There you go. I mean, Bobby, Luke Clanton, star of the future.
Yeah, he looks like he has all the ingredients necessary, and it goes back to something we talked about on our show many times. These young players, men and ladies, are getting better at an earlier age because of the pipeline of youth golf getting better and better and better. And they're just ready to win. They're ready to play well. They're ready to handle, the stress, the pressure that comes with getting on tour. So, and I think, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I think it's being talked about at the tour as well, to showcase more what's happening Friday on the making the cut. The making the cut can make or break a career. Making the cut plays into the final. Highsmith makes it. I think he made it on the number, and he ends up winning the tournament.
Right.
So I just think the Friday making the cut's exciting because you get everybody jumbled together, and you still get some players that aren't playing so good. And I do get a little frustrated when people come in my golf shop and all they do is they tune in late Sunday. They see the best players playing their best when they get the mojo going on the best course and best conditions. And then they try to compare themselves to that versus the Thursday to Friday play when everybody's going to hit a bad shot.
Yeah, I think Stephen Yellen posted something on one of the forums for our listeners, Stephen Yellen is the fluid motion factor, guy that we've had on our show a few times. But he posted something which I thought was pretty interesting. How Jake Knapp shoots his 59 on day one, and it becomes really difficult for him to continue to find that flow through the rest of the weekend. And Joe Highsmith, ends up barely making the cut on the number. I heard him say that his warm-up on Saturday's round was horrific.
Right. He
couldn't find the club face, and he got into the flow, and he played 2 great rounds of golf on the weekend. But it just shows you the dynamic of that opening round, and of what Steven always talks about, of being in the flow and being able to kind of keep yourself in that state of playing with the right part of your brain.
But isn't that the managed expectations? Perfect example. I mean, hitting a terrible Saturday morning, barely makes the cut, manages expectations. Hey, I'm just going to make some swings. Probably eliminates all those thoughts, those negative that negative thoughts, which rolls right into the second thing we wanted to talk about, which is just the psychology of the game. I mean, with Jake Knapp. I mean, Christian, 59. I think he's now the 15th person, I think, now in tour history to break the 60 barrier. I mean, immense talent amongst a bunch of young and up and coming talented players. But how do you reproduce that? Well, unless you're Andy Heidorn, of course. For those of you that don't know, I have to set the stage. We get this text message.
No.
Never want? No? Don't want to go there?
We don't need to go there.
Okay. Let's just say Andy's playing well right now.
I think it's a testament to. I want to touch on Luke really quick as well, Clanton, because what happened to him at the Waste Management, coming back from that, being 1 stroke off from getting your tour card, that could have played with him mentally for the next X amount of tournaments after that. But he came back and he fought, and he played phenomenal to in order to earn that card. That just goes, I think, strongly on the psychology or the mental part of the game, because even with Luke, or excuse me, with Knapp, for example, if he is not hitting the ball well in the range, how many times have we all teed it up on this podcast, or even people that are listening, where you've had some of the worst range sessions in the world, but then you go out and you shoot a phenomenal round of golf, or you have a great range session where you're peering it on the range, everything's going straight, and then you go out on the course and then everything goes left and right and so forth. That just goes. It comes down to how good your mental game is and how good you are between the ears. So in a situation like Knapp, for example, it was awesome to kind of. I didn't know that first off about his range session, so I think that was really critical to note.
No, it was Highsmith's range session.
Highsmith, sorry. But even that, having a really bad range session, I've done it so many times in college. I've done it so many times playing in local events growing up, and then. It only takes one small little thing to get you moving forward. I just completed Full Swing season 3. It was phenomenal. And watching some the little wins that they kept talking about, and Gary Woodland, or it could be Wyndham Clark, just moving forward in general is just it's important, obviously, in the game of golf.
So for my sake and maybe some of our listeners' sake too, I thought that the Waste Management was Luke Clanton's chance to get his card. I thought when he didn't get it, he missed it. So if any of the three of you guys know, under what condition did he get his card? And what were the circumstances? Did he have more events to try to get it? What was the deal?
I'll be honest with you, Bob, maybe chime in, but I know you have to earn 20 points. And you accumulate those points, obviously, by finishes over X period amount of time in PGA University. World number 2 right now, Jackson. I'm going to butcher it. Koivu.
Or Koivu. Maybe, yeah.
He is teeing it up at the AP, voted on by his peers this week, and literally a top 10 finish. He's in. He gets his card as a sophomore.
Okay. I was thinking of Saku Koivu, the hockey player. So.
Yeah. Good player.
Yeah.
Solid. Did not think I'd hear that name tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So was it? Did he have like?
So he was actually at 19 points.
Okay.
He literally needed to make the cut.
Right.
That was it, and
that's why the flood of emotion on 18. I mean, I walked through the golf shop, and after he posted 68 day one, I walked through and I said, another 68. And he did one better. He fired a little 67. So flood of emotion, good family. You can see the family unit cheering him on.
Yeah,
and proud of the kid. Good for him.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a great career moving forward, but it just also shows you, again, what these guys go through. And like the same with the women, too, what they go through on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, month-to-month, and so forth. Just the grind that it takes in order to get to that point in your career. And, I hope that he has he's got a hell of a swing, first off. Kid can bomb it out of nowhere. Like, he hits it far, straight, and I think he's going to be a good player to watch for the years to come, if I'm being honest.
Bobby, when you were shooting your 59 at Rockland,
57,
57, excuse me. What was the psychology? Because I'll share.
What was the psychology of your 3 over par round, Robert?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's when you get in that zone, it's.
I gotta tell you, I've shot in the 40s at Hago Harrington, so
that's tough.
Sorry.
Because you can smell the China Moon Chinese food coming in, and it makes you pretty hungry.
Exactly.
All right. If I may chime in, and I would be interested because you guys are all far better golfers than me, but in the day when I actually turned 70 degrees instead of 69, I actually posted a 63 one time in my life. Back in those days, I broke it down, and I've heard it said this way by other people, much more talented people. Just break it down into 3 holes. I always broke it down to 3 holes. I need to do this in this 3 holes. I need to do this in this 3 holes. For me, the middle part of the round was the most challenging part of the round. I always lost my focus. Andy's shaking his head. I hate it when Andy shakes his head.
No, I think everybody has their own way of doing it, right? Like for me, I did have my career best round 2 days ago.
Oh, now you want to talk about it.
Or 3 days ago. But like I honestly didn't even think about what was going on other than I knew where I was score-wise, but like there was no pressure like you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do that. There wasn't any of that for me, but I think everybody handles that stuff differently.
I think for a lot of people, as my game improved over the youth golf and getting in through college, it was something my dad always talked about that, it takes a while sometimes for it to sink in, but it's stay in the present, shot by shot. And you're writing down a number, but you try not to be aware of like I'm 300, 400, whatever it is. And if you just can do that somehow and not start thinking about 18th hole. And sometimes when you play the same course, it's really bad because maybe you made a bogey and you're thinking, I've got a good round going. And I think, well, I always birdie 16. So you start thinking out ahead of 16. Some of my best rounds have been on courses I've never seen before. And you really stay shot by shot. I don't have a clue what's up ahead. And you really can stay in the present a little bit better.
Christian, young stick.
Well, the rounds that I've played really well in, shot in the 60s, I'm just like Boston Bob, where I don't try to look ahead because then obviously if it's a golf course that you play, if it's your home course or whatever, like what holes down the stretch you can birdie, right? So I try not to get ahead of myself and just think about, if I birdie 14, 17, 18, I could shoot my 63 or 62 because then that's never going to happen. So thinking about it in like the moment and just taking it one shot at a time, I think that's just critical. And that's how I do it personally. I try to also weirdly enough, talk about things that are off topic of golf. If I'm playing with somebody, like some of the guys that I'm really close with, and just try not to live in the moment of me playing super well. sometimes when you're not thinking of golf, at least what I've done, if it's college or local events, that seems to help me as well.
Yeah, I was just going to add. I think that there is something to Stephen Yellen's analysis of what goes on when you're doing that, when you're having those days, and there is a definite automation to what you're doing. It's not contrived. It's not something you're trying
but
to.
It's also the confidence too with it. If you're like Andy a couple days ago,
but those are the same thing, I think. Yeah,
but when you're shooting the round of your life, right, you know that for a fact that you're like, I have confidence on a 15-footer, I have confidence on a 30-footer, or I know that I could hit a 10-foot or 10 right to left draw, or I can sling it left or right to left. It's like you're in so control of your game. But I think that just is another testament to what you were just talking about.
I'd love to have Steve in here, but Andy, you're going to have to do. Can you teach someone to shoot low scores through mental training?
I think you can give people tools, but at the end of the day, as much as we all know about what to do, and we've heard people like Steven tell us what to do, it just doesn't happen very often, right? So it's not because our knowledge base is different or our knowledge base has changed. It's just that some days you kind of have that peace and that quietness about what you're doing. And as much as we can identify it afterwards, or even during, we can identify it, it's really hard to make it happen.
I'll add in there too that something my dad had me do was use my whole entire set and play from the 4 tees. And I said, well, it's going to be easy.
I love that. Yeah.
And he goes, I just want you to get comfortable being under par. And then you start to think I'm 4 under. What the hell? Maybe I want to be 5. What the hell? Maybe I want to be 6. And so you're expected to shoot some pretty good scores. When I would do that, it's kind of reverse psychology. Other times I had to play just with irons from all the way back. So you play the course a little bit different. It's mental gymnastics, but I think to Andy's point, it's just there's some learned behaviors that you can get comfortable playing well, but you want to do it time and time again. And it's like public speaking. It's like anything. You just start to get a little more comfortable at it, and then you get more confident, and then your expectations can rise.
So you think it's the positive reinforcement? It's not the visualization, or is it a combination thereof?
I mean, for me, it's probably a little bit of combination, but I knew I was driving on the green or hitting driver wedge a lot at Hillview Country Club. And so I just was like, well, this is easy. But I looked at the scorecard like, wow, I'm really under par. And it was just like, oh, I can do this and I feel comfortable. So it's probably a little bit of both. But it's a confidence factor and you cannot replace just teeing up in a tournament. I don't care who you are. Tiger talks about it, that those butterflies that you want flying in the right formation.
Yeah, I think though that like, again, as much as we all know about the things to do, about visualization, all those other things, you just can't force it to happen. You can't. I mean, it just has to be one of those days where it's happening, and we're all really not in control of that.
I think it's a matter of how, like, going off of what Andy's saying too, I think it's a matter of how much you want it. And I keep like the minute Alan asked that question, the very first golfer I thought of was Joel Damon. I think if Joel Damon had a much better mental game, because I've watched him on Full Swing now multiple seasons, and it kills me to say that because I love Joel. But I do know that if a player like him could have a better mental state of the game, I think he would have another handful of PGA Tour wins on his resume right now. So I think it just kind of it goes to show you like what is important, obviously, and I think having the right team around you as well and a good support system is also pretty critical on that as well.
To that point, that support system, we talked about the role of the caddy, right, Alan? I knew you were going to go there.
You took it right away from me, BB.
And having that can really, really come into play on the bad days to get it to right the ship, on the good days to keep you going steady. Some of these player caddy combinations have been phenomenal over the years, but I will also say a lot of events we play alone. If I get paired with Andy and Christian, that's so comfortable. You're going to go into that round as we know each other. If it's Joe Schmo and whoever, you don't know them. It takes you a few holes to get comfortable. We've all been paired with some blank heads, and that's no fun because if you kind of get it going, and it can go sideways if somebody's not in the right frame of mind. But I think the playing partner is important at times. They've talked about that on the tour, but the caddy is so instrumental as well.
Oh, absolutely. I know the only two players right now that aren't going to play golf with one another that can't really stand each other are Phil and Freddie Couples.
Yeah. But before we move on from that, I think you hit on an interesting point, Bobby, about you're playing with either people that you like to play with or people that you don't. But Mike Booker's book talked about that. He talked about having not being so attached to those circumstances that you can't control, right? And I think we all end up in those circumstances from time to time, and it's shame on us for letting something like that bother you. All right, sorry I screwed up your segue.
Probably the best segue I've ever had in my time of being with you guys.
Why don't you throw it back out?
It doesn't hit the same the second time around.
It doesn't hit the same. You're right.
Segue to the role of a cold beer to help our.
It's like that second shot of Woodford. After the first one.
Oh yeah. Smooth.
Yeah.
And you need a second.
Smooth.
But I'll say it again one last time.
Please do. I'll be honest with you. I got so wrapped up in Andy's elaboration on the point that I completely forgot what you were going to say.
If there are two players today that don't play with that don't want to play with one another, it is Phil Mickelson and Freddie Couples.
Well, Freddie Couples actually was in the news, so to speak. Ask why, Christian.
Why was Mr. Couples in the news?
Mr. Couples was quoted as saying something to the regards on social media that he can't come right out and say this, but if he had his druthers or if he had an opinion, he thinks Brooks Koepka wants to come back to the PGA Tour and is seeking a pathway to make that happen.
I mean,
aren't they all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of everybody on Live, though, he's one of the most relevant guys on tour, along with Bryson. I mean, but who knows what happened in the back end of that? Brooks could have told him to say that behind closed doors to put the bug in people's ear, but who knows?
Well, so is there anything to the fact that when you watch these guys from Live intermingling in other events, they all have those stupid ass logos from the Range Goats and the High Flyers and all. Brooks never wears his stuff. Brooks wears his Nike stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
everybody else is wearing their team logo.
The new logo of the Cleeks, it does it for me. But I'm just, I mean, look, I was watching Golf Central and just a few moments ago because I got nothing else to do here, but Brendan Chamblee was going on about the failed business model of Live, and it's true. It is true. It is an utter, absolute failure. I know this would be the perfect time to hang on one second, Andy. I got to bring this up for you. There you go. Got to make that happen. There's no other way to describe it. It's an utter business failure.
I go back to, and I said this on a show last year, or even longer than that ago. I listened to a podcast from an economist. He had Greg on, and they were talking about the business model. And the business model was, and we've talked about this ad nauseum here, the business model was that the teams are going to generate billions of dollars in value, and be the ultimate revenue, kind of avenue for Live to be successful. There's no way that it appears that any of that's even begun to take place.
Christian?
Well, I agree with everything as well, and kind of the reason I said Phil about that whole thing was because ever since Freddie made those comments about Brooke, Phil gave a little bit of kickback on Twitter specifically, or X, excuse me, and they've been kind of going at it for a couple of years on social media here and there. I remember Phil a couple of years ago was calling him like a nut job, and then also just recently about this whole Brooks thing. He said that it was a very low-class jerk move by Freddie for having him come out and say that. But as we've been very open about it, and this first Brooks didn't physically say it on Full Swing in season 2, but he actually kind of alluded to the fact that, if he wasn't hurt back in the day, he would never have taken that deal to begin with. So it's evident that he is missing the tour, and I think he's missing competing against the best players in the world, because you're not getting any of the best players in the world on Live, as we all know. And I do think
not any. You're getting some,
but not like you would be on a PGA Tour, right? But I do think that he does wish that he could be at like an Arnold Palmer this week instead of just seeing these guys at a major tournaments 4 times a year.
All right, listener question. Will Brooks Koepka ever fully return to the PGA Tour?
Yes.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yes.
There you go.
Might even be before you get your next haircut.
I don't know. That's like every 2 weeks.
I mean, here's a question I just thought of. Out of everybody
like a chia pet, Andy.
Out of everybody on Live currently, how many would you even take right now to go to take off of Live, put them on the PGA? How many guys would you take?
10.
10?
Yep.
Fire them off. Can you list all 10 just like that?
So, I mean, I haven't thought about this, but Brooks, Bryson,
Cam,
DJ, Patrick Reed, Joaquin Neiman. Who else did you say, Alan? Cam Smith. There's 10 of them.
I would not. I mean, for me, I would never say Patrick Reed. He can stay and live as long as that thing is.
Yeah, that's a personal thing for you, though.
Of course it is.
Patrick Reed is a PGA Tour caliber player.
Well, of course he is. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to argue that. But I think as a fan favorite and likable golfer, nobody would want to watch him.
He can pencil whip with the best of them. Anyway,
he doesn't do it with his pencil. He's very, very.
He's very discreet.
He's innovative. He's not discreet. He's innovative. Anyway,
he likes bunkers too.
Yeah.
All right, got another question. How do you this actually is back to the earlier segment. So I hate to bring us back to that, but we want to answer it. How do you mentally prepare for a round when you're under the pressure? Is there something special that you do?
Great question. I mean, what I've done, I just kind of stick to a routine. Honestly, it's kind of a cliche, boring answer, but that's just something that I like when I was in college and I was playing well at a couple different events. And there was one event in particular where I was leading the tournament after one round. And I just kept telling myself that, you can do this. You're just having that confidence in yourself to continue to thrive, but just keep the normal routine that you do. And just know that obviously if the job doesn't get done today, then you're still going to be okay at the end of the day.
For me, it's one thing. It's don't rush your warm up. And I've done that a few times and it's a disaster. So I make sure I get there plenty early enough and over budget time to warm up. And then from there, whatever happens. But to me, that's the one thing that can derail a situation pretty quickly.
I got an interesting question because everybody obviously is different. Do you warm up wedges to driver? How do you warm up?
Oh,
I'll take that one.
That's a great question.
Back in 88, 89, I was working at Indian Creek Country Club on the island in Miami Beach, and Ray Floyd's a member there. To this day, my go-to golf instruction thing I'll do on TV or video, and I've told this a million times, Ray Floyd, I watched him warm up. He would always warm up putting and moving away from the hole to chipping to pitching. And he said to me, I want my last swing, I want my last motion to be my tee shot. I'm going to get ready to tee shot on number 1. And so I want my last swing in practice to be a full-blown hit a driver off the tee. And I thought that was really interesting, because if you go to tournaments, and I've done this where I'm all alone on the putting green, especially at shotgun section events, and everybody's warming on the range. I'm doing my short game stuff. Then I move to the range. Everybody moves to the putting green. And yeah, I try to get 10 minutes or so between my last full swing, let it rip, to that fresh swing that's going to happen on the first tee. And I go to the first tee, and I see a lot of guys start to have to warm up and loosen up again because their bodies cooled down because they've been putting for 20 minutes. Right. So I'll just throw that out to anybody out there. Give that a try. It's I love Christian. My thing is sticking to routine, to Andy's thing, get to the course, do the same thing I do all the time, eat the same thing. If you got to go, and I don't want to break it, but everybody give that a try. Try putting, any kind of short game, and move into your final big full swing driver, hopefully less than 10 minutes before you go to the first tee.
I think that's awesome to know, because I do the same exact thing. I go to putting first just to get, and then I don't hit many balls when I warm up. I probably hit anywhere from 30 to 50 balls in a session for me, right? The last thing I do, though, is that I study the golf course ahead of time, and whatever hole I go off, if it's a shotgun or off the first hole, I visualize my first tee shot. That is the last thing I want to think about before I go up to the first tee box. Is like, okay, if it's going to be a long iron, am I going to hit driver? Am I going to hit 3-wood? That's the last club in my bag that I hit personally on my warm-up session. But for me, it's like I've been doing the 30 to 50 balls, in a session, just because I just want to get my body loose. I know that I'm a good enough player, and I know that I can shoot under par and give my all in that day. And that's something that's worked for me over the last, 5-10 years.
30 to 50 balls is a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm on the high side of that equation too. I have to hit a ton of balls to feel okay before I start. But my answer to that question is a little, what, Bobby?
That's because you and I are a little bit older than the young guys.
I was going to say.
Yeah. But my answer to the question is a little bit more practical, right? Like what I do warming up is I go to the putting green last, like every other Yahoo does. But what I do is on an even day, I hit all my even numbered irons to warm up. And on the next day, I'll hit my odd numbered irons. And the reason I do that is because I tend to hit a lot of balls, and I don't want to wear out half of my set at a greater rate than the other half. But I definitely have a system where I alternate from day to day.
I just putt.
I think that's, as I was younger, I used to get to the range, like, to the golf course, like 2 hours beforehand. And now if I'm going to play in a tournament, say tomorrow, for example, for me, I show up an hour, maybe 45 minutes before my tee time. That, I know Andy's shaking his head, but like, that's what works for me. And probably part of that reason.
I'm not shaking my head that it's wrong. I'm just saying I could never do that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a testament to what unfortunately happened for me in college, is that we were notorious for showing up 30 minutes or 45 minutes before our tee time started. So I didn't really have a lot of warm. Yeah. So I didn't really have a lot of time to warm up, and I just kind of got used to it. And I built my own little routine in that short amount of time. And it also, for me, it's like the reason I show up that early is so I don't have to think about much when I'm there, right? At least ahead of time. I've learned that you get there, you warm up, you stretch, you do whatever you got to do. And then again, in that 30 balls or so, if I'm feeling good after that, then I'm done. So
clearly we've learned that Christian's coach needed to drive a little faster.
Yeah.
No, Bobby, it's the complete opposite.
Bobby, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do it a little different. Because we're going to throw you get the don't be that guy, even though Andy's the don't be that guy. But you're going to because I don't want to steal your final thought, because I know it. And it's a don't be that guy, but maybe be that guy.
Well, this is a little, I'm doing a little
one of those human interest stories that you're referring to.
Yeah, and I love human interest stories. I mean, the tour players, that's a tough life. There's tens of thousands of really, really good golfers out there. There's a lot of good golfers, and to get even to sniff the tour and then get on the tour, and then if you get to win, I mean, it's unbelievably hard, and life is hard. And there's a really good feel good. At one point, it was "Don't Be This Guy," Ryan Peake. He was in a motorcycle gang in overseas, I think Australia, and he went to jail for 5 years. So before that, he was playing with Cam Smith. He was one of the top Australian junior golfers, and he had this amazing life and career ahead of him. Gets off track, goes in jail for 5 years, and turns his life around and comes back out. And he just won the New Zealand Open. He's going to play in the Open Championship. I mean, he was a "don't be that guy," but now he's, hey, maybe you want to be that guy. Maybe you want to be resilient and determined.
Whoa.
Well, maybe. Well, the resiliency is amazing.
Yeah.
And, it's almost like there's a movie in there to be made. He's a lefty golfer. He's the first lefty since Sir Bob Charles to win the New Zealand Open when Bob Charles won that in 1973. It's just it's an amazing story. So I love those feel-good stories. I root for the underdog guy, and this is a heck of a good story.
Only if he beats Cam Smith in the final round to win the Open Championship and lift the claret jug. That would be the story.
That'd be wicked.
Christian Azamis, final thought.
Final thoughts for me are, I'm just obviously it's always good to be back with the guys, and I know that we're always kind of missing one or two guys, on a weekly basis that we do it, but we're all busy guys, and we have a great look ahead moving forward and so forth. And I want to say good luck to my big bro this week, but those are my short and easy final thoughts.
Mr. Hydorn.
So thank you, Christian, but it would be just good luck playing friendly golf with my buddies down here. And it's my greatest weekend of the year. Get to hang out at Medalist Golf Club for 4 days and play golf. And it's something we've been doing for probably 10 or 12 years now, and I look forward to it every year. It's such an awesome place. They have kind of redone their practice facility, which I'm all geeked up about seeing that tomorrow. But yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite weekends of the year, doing that. So that's my final thought.
Mine is, I'm going to throw it over to the LPGA Tour. Lydia Ko, the New Zealander, winning the HSBC, her 23rd career victory this past Sunday. What's significant, obviously, she's already secured a spot in the LPGA, is she moves to, I believe, now number 2, just under $2 million behind Annika on the career money list. So Lydia Ko, who I've had the pleasure of meeting before, absolutely a most genuine person and a hell of a golfer. So good job, Lydia Ko. That's my final thoughts. So Christian, hit it long. Oh, you know what? No, Andy, real quick.
I just wanted to say that next week we have a couple of guests coming on. Nicholas Callaway, the son of Ely Callaway, and Mike Gillespie, who we've had on the show before. Mike ran the tour department at Callaway Golf, but they're going to come on and talk about a new book about Ely Callaway that gets released shortly, if not already released. But they're going to come on the show, and the book is going to be fantastic, number one. Number two, the book is actually done in an AI voiceover with Ely's voice. And anybody who's ever heard Ely Callaway talk knows how distinctive his voice was. And the cadence in which he spoke is just phenomenal. I heard a trailer of the book, and it gave me the chills just listening to it. It's a little bit creepy. Ely's been gone for, close to 20 years now, but yeah, we're going to have Nicholas and Mike on next week, and can't wait to talk to them about the book.
That will be a great show. Until then, boys, as always, a pleasure. Andy, play well down there in sunny Florida.
Bye, Winnie.
You only have one opportunity to sell your golf property. Shouldn't you partner with an expert that offers you 30 plus years of golf industry experience combined with the reach of a global leader in real estate? Colliers International Golf Brokerage and Advisory Services understands your unique business needs. Whether it is brokerage, management, and consulting, be reassured that the market leader in the business of golf is providing you the real answers and practical solutions you deserve. Contact Golf Talk Live co-host and Colliers Golf Advisory Services member Alan Depew today at 717-554-8519. That's 717-554-8519.